All right, hey, it's June 27th. Bringing you a Lake of the Ozarks fishing report. Boy, we had a hot last couple of weeks, and it really brought that water temp up, moved the fish around a little bit. Water temps went from, mid 70s to lower to mid 80s pretty quick. We had several 95, 100-degree days. And it just really heated up. The only thing that's kind of helped a lot is a lot of current still running through the lake. Water level is 659.78, so it's full. I mean, it's at summer full pool right now, and they're generating anywhere from, an average, I would say 25 to 30,000 cubic foot. But if you really watch the chart, like today, about 10 o'clock or so, they slowed her down to about 15 to 17,000 cubic foot, which is still current and still enough moving through the water. They may slow it down or shut it off for a few hours. You're not going to see a whole lot of change in the fish positioning until they shut it down. For, I would say, 2 or 3 days. In in a row, basically. That's they pretty much shut the current down, and you'll see the fish. They'll start moving. They won't be so bunched up on the points, on the drops, and they'll start moving more towards brush piles. Deeper brush piles, and then you'll start working the brush piles compared to like right now we're still just fishing main lake points, bluff ends, some bluff shelves, pretty much all main lake stuff, with all this current. Let's see, water temp today was, I'll say, right at 80. It was, it had dropped about 5 degrees from, last week. Watercolor's pretty good throughout the entire lake. The Osage, once you get up around Hurricane Deck and above, it's still dirtied up pretty good. All the other arms, Ninewood looks real good. The Glaze looks pretty good. And then, like I said, say, I don't know, Lynn Creek all the way down to Bagnell Dam is pretty good color right now. It's about just your normal green tint, Lake of the Ozarks, 3 foot visibility, I guess you'd say. And here we're still really catching fish consistently, just on a variety of worms, basically, and some swim baits. Early in the morning, a lot of these fish will move up pretty close to the bank. Some steeper banks, like I said, some of them bluff ends, and main lake points. They'll move up in that, I don't know, 8 to 10 foot range. But as soon as that sun gets up and you get a little boat traffic, a lot of these fish that are up shallow, they'll go ahead and move on out to one of the first drops or ledges. That might be in 15 foot, or it might be out there in 25 foot. We got a ledge that drops off into some deeper water. When I'm saying ledges, usually I like to refer to a ledge as an old river channel, a drop off into the old river channel. So you may be thrown up on a point that's, I don't know, 12 to 18 foot of water, and then as it kind of tapers down, comes out gradual, then it'll have that sharp drop off into the old river channel that still, runs through the lake. And when they're running a lot of current, there's still a lot of current that travels through that old river channel, so that kind of bunches up fish on these breaks. It diverts that underwater current, it diverts it. Shad relate to it. Pretty much everything relates to the old river channels, and as long as we've got current, there's going to be fish around those breaks, those drop offs. Fish just love those drop offs. And pretty much all the species. Today, had a morning trip, and let's see, we caught We caught, we caught bass, we caught some catfish, we caught walleye, all out on those main lake breaks, them drop offs into the channel. So really doesn't matter what type of fish you're fishing for, they're going to relate to them channels. Crappie, you control these crankbaits like these old bombers. These little bombers, they'll run about 8 to 12 foot, depending on your line, what size you're running. These bandits are really good. The 300 series bandit will run 12 to 16 foot of water, depending on your line size. So usually I'll throw these on 8 or 10 pound test fluorocarbon, and that'll get your baits down to its max depth, depending on the bill size. But right now, them crappie, if you're trolling for crappie, man, you could just troll these bluffs. Just troll bluffs, and where the bluffs intersects with creeks or coves, on them points, just kind of go on and troll right on out towards the middle of the entrance of the cove and make a loop and come back. Usually I hold the boat maybe a boat length off of the bluff and just troll along. And you can watch your graphs. Put like on your Garmin's, put it on live view, and just troll along and watch that. And you'll see the wads of crappie, white bass. You'll see bass, just pretty much anything, and you'll watch on your graph and you'll see them, and you'll know pretty much about where you should be getting some bites. Summertime is a real good time to troll for crappie. So if you don't want to fish around the docks, you can shoot them big docks with crappie jigs and catch them underneath them docks. But when it gets pretty rough out, sometimes that can get difficult with all the waves and everything close to the docks trying to shoot them. So I would just troll, troll these crankbaits, and you're going to catch plenty of crappie doing that, and a variety of stuff. You'll catch all kinds of stuff trolling, pretty much anything. Back to the bass. We've just been really, like I said, I'm starting to tell you, we'll start out with a small crack getter shaky pro head, usually in the 1/4 ounce, just like this, with the small mag finesse, zoom mag finesse, green pumpkin and something. It really doesn't matter color, but the small one, the little 1/4, or even the 3/16 shaky football, and we'll throw it right up tight against these real steep banks or up towards the bluffs, and that real slow fall, a lot of times will trigger a lot of these fish that are up there, and they've been up there most of the evening or night, and they're still up in the morning, but they'll suspend down maybe 6, 8, 10 foot down from the surface, and a slow fall and shaky head, a lot of times they'll run out and grab that thing as it's falling. You might be sitting in 35, 45, even 50 foot of water along these bluffs or bluff shelves or bluff points, and throw this thing right up tight against the wall and just let it fall real slow. Just really watch that line, because a lot of times you won't feel a bite. You'll just see that line twitch or start moving off to the side. And the small shaky head is extremely good for that. I throw it on 12-pound fluorocarbon on this 7-foot Falcon finesse jig rod, on the 8-to-1 Hyper Mag Lose Reel. That's usually my rig for that. And actually some of the other shaky heads, 1/2-ounce jigs and stuff. But I'll tell you something that really works really well, use a lot on trips, is the spinning rod reel setup. Like this is just that loose orange crush, they call it. You need a pretty good medium action 7-foot spinning rod reel with a decent reel on it. And what I'm doing is I'm spooling up these reels with 15 or 20-pound yellow Power Pro braid. That's the big deal on the spinning rod reel, is filling it up with the yellow line and then put you about a 12-foot, 10, 12, 15 pound fluorocarbon leader on there. That way you're gonna see your line as it's falling. You'll see every little movement, everything's going on. But then you've got that fluorocarbon line, that clear line, so the fish maybe don't detect the color or the brightness of that yellow. And it also will help you from getting not getting hung up so much. If you have a leader on there, that leader will give just enough. You can usually pop the bait off rocks or off the bottom. It'll give just a little bit compared to if you're just running straight braid. That braid gets hung up. It's usually hung up, because there's no give. There's nothing to move that bait, as far as popping it off or pulling it or twitching it or whatever. So, you just want to put that leader on there. And then also, if you do get hung up, a lot of times you can pull and break the knot, if you can't get loose. Compared to that braid, you can't pull it and break the stuff, So it kind of takes away from that hassle too. But like today, this is just a 5/16 Cracker Shaky Pro head. We were throwing a 10-inch power worm on it, 10-inch blue fleck power worm. On there, was throwing the Tequila Sunrise 10-inch power worm on that. And we're just throwing it like main lake points, mainly main lake points. And like I said, them drop offs. But early in the morning, you can throw up into 8-10 foot and just drag that worm out there until it's out there in, I don't know, 15 to 18 foot of water, and just drag it along. Every once in a while, hop it. Just keeping good contact with that worm as you're pulling out these points. You can probably pick any point on Lake of the Ozarks right now. Obviously, the ones where the main river channel is close, those are going to be your better ones. But you can find any main lake point on Lake of the Ozarks right now and throw a big worm up there and just start dragging it and expect to get some bites. And if you find a certain point and you start catching some fish on it, there's usually something going on there, like a rock change, maybe a rock transition, a small drop, maybe some brush, a couple boulders or something that are out off of that point, and then fish will really congregate around them. Anything different on that point. So you really got to pay attention to the line you made as far as cast. When I say line, I mean the line you took to cast. And then make several casts in the exact same casting line in order to get, catching fish off that same point. And a lot of times, especially now, they're still grouped up quite a bit. So you can catch several fish off of the exact same point. So, if you're just coming down to the lake and you want to catch some fish, just keep it real simple. Tie you on a big 10-inch worm on a 5/16 ounce Shaky Pro head from Crockett Gator, and just drag that thing out off of these points, and keep it pretty simple. Right now, it's about as simple as it's going to get. We've got another, I'll say probably a week, maybe a week and a half of this good main lake point bite until they shut that water down, and then the fish start moving off into the brush pile. Let's see. Also, swim bait. Swim bait's still been real good. Today we caught several on a swim bait. We're rigging it up two different ways. Like this is the Kitech 4.5 swing impact kayak Kitech makes. And we're just putting it on either a 7/16 ounce Crockett Gator Gator Lock jig head with the wire, to go on the barb and hold that soft plastic on there, or we'll take like a 1/2 ounce zapper head. I usually like to use the HD, the one with the beefier hook, and feed, pull that weed guard out and feed it up on there, and that thing will lay on there real nice and straight, and you throw that 1/2 ounce out. You can throw it in all depths, but if these fish are down 20, 25 foot, it just takes a while for this to get down there compared to like if you was to throw it on a 3/4 ounce reaction jig head by Crappie Gator. Same setup, but this one will get down there where you want it. You can reel it a little slower and keep it down at that depth, where you want that bait to be swimming with the fish or slightly above them. Today, several fish would hit. If you throw it out there and reel it, pretty steady reel, and then you kill it and let that thing just free fall, that'll get fish to bite. As these fish get a little pickier or a little more, not so aggressive out on these points, you'll have to generally just speed that bait up, just a good steady, and then speed it up, twitch it, kill it, do something to change the action or the direction in the bait. And a lot of times, like you'll watch them on the live scope, and you'll see the fish kind of trailing these baits. And if you just keep steady retrieving, they'll just follow it, and eventually they'll turn away. Compared to if you're reeling along and you can see them, or if you can't see them, and just every once in a while give that line a little pull, the rod a pull, speed the reel up, or just kill it and just let it free fall. And a lot of times that'll get them to a commit and chase these swim baits. So this one here's that Reaction Innovations. This is a Kitech 4.5. Like I said, both one's on a 3/4 ounce head, one's on a half head. And then of course we're still throwing the big swim bait. Like this is the big Zoom swimmer on a 3/4 ounce Crappie Gator zapper head. It's got that big meat hook on there, and the baits work on it really good. If you are buying these swim bait heads, I prefer the ones that come straight out of the nose, compared to the ones that have like a 90-degree line tie. It just doesn't make sense. I think it's kind of going to move your bait a little bit, not run so straight compared to the line tie that's coming straight out of the nose. Keep that bait more vertical and get that tail, all of its movement. On these big ones, I'm throwing 17-pound test. This is a 7'3" Falcon Amistad with an older. This is actually an older 8-to-1 lose reel. Spool them all the way up so you can make long casts. Usually on this swim bait or any of these swim baits, just start out, just throw that thing as far as you can and let it sink to the bottom. But just watch your line, hold your rod tip up, and when that line, as soon as it hits the bottom and you see that sack, pull that bait up right away. Don't let it lay on the bottom. Don't drag it, because these hooks will lay over and get hung up every time almost. So you just want to let it sink, hit the bottom, pull it up, and just start a steady retrieve. Just about as slow as you can. Keep that thing working down there and keep it pretty close to the bottom. The first few retrieves, and see if you don't get a bite or two. If not, start changing your retrieve depth. Just count it down. Like if you throw it out there on a point and you count it down, and when it hits, you get to 25 and it hits that bottom. Okay, 25 is the bottom. Then the next few times throw it out there and maybe count down to 20 or count down to 15 or 18 and change that water depth that your swim bait's coming through. You just want to keep varying your retrieve and speed until you finally catch a couple fish, and then you'll know where those fish are suspended, or maybe where the shad pods are, and you're trying to come through them shad pods with the swim bait or come just above it. With the live scope, you can see the shad out there, what depth they're at, so you can usually use that as the reference to how far to count it down. If you don't have live scope or any graphs, just do what I said. Just throw it out there, count your bait, count it until it hits the bottom, and then that's your mental note. Okay, it took 25 seconds to hit the bottom, or probably 25 foot of water or so, and then reel it slow then. And then the next time, like I said, just throw it up and count it down, say 15 or 18, and try that depth. That's usually a pretty good way. Same deal, try your main lake points or drop-offs. Any type of a drop-off is excellent for the swim baits, the worms. Another bait I really like in the summertime, especially now, is like a 3/4 ounce reaction jig. I just like the Ozark crawl color usually. Okeechobee's good. Brown purple scale's real good. And then you just put a baby peck of chunk on the back of it. and either green pumpkin something. This is a green pumpkin blue. You can see they've got the big flappers on it. And that thing you can throw out there, kind of do the same as you would do the swim bait or the worm, but when it hits the bottom, just drag it. Just drag the thing along, hop it a little bit. Just do that for a few retrieves to see if they want the slow dragging, and then switch it up. A lot of times when these fish aren't biting, you'll have to do something just to get a reaction bite out of them. So that's where it comes into, basically what you hear called stroking a jig. And you just take these big 3/4 ounce or 1 ounce jigs. You'll throw them as far as you can. You try to get to that drop off, the main drop channel drop off, about halfway between a long cast and the boat. That's usually about, 30 yards out. Throw it up on the flat point of the point. And it, when I say flat, it might be 20 foot of water up there on the flat. Let that thing go to the bottom, drag it, say 2-3 feet, and rip it off of the bottom, like a 4-foot rip. Rip it off the bottom, get that jig to shoot way up in the water column and then flutter back down. And a lot of times that'll get them fish that aren't necessarily feeding, and you get this thing coming through and it just rips up past them. That'll just get them to react and grab the thing. If they're suspended a little bit off the bottom or even on the bottom, I've seen them suspend 6-8 foot off of the bottom below some of these big schools of shad, and you can literally rip that jig, you rip it up into those shad pods, spread them shad out, create some kind of diversion or something that's going to move them shad and get them excited, and the bass are just going to by instinct chase up into them shad that are all spread out. The shad have moved, and your jig's still up there, and here it comes down, and they'll run up and grab that jig. So the jig's an excellent bait this time of year, both like I said, to drag it and to stroke it and rip it off of the bottom. Just try, if you've never done it, it's actually a lot of fun. It's really easy. You just throw the bait up there, like I said, just let it hit the bottom, drag it, and just rip it up. 2 pops, 1 pop, hard pop, and just let it sink again till it hits the bottom. Bounce it a couple times, do it again. Just keep doing that all the way back to the boat. The key is if you can get it to bounce and hit right before the break, and then you rip it off that bottom, and when it falls past that breaking point and starts down the side of that old river channel. That's when them big fish will pounce on it and grab it. And man, when they hit it pretty good. So that you're gonna want like a 7'3" heavy rod, like the Falcon Amistad. I use it for several different things: big swim baits, big top waters, big jigs, big worms. It's just a good all-around rod for that. But I'll spool up with at least 17-pound test on these big jigs, 17 or 20-pound fluorocarbon, and an 8-to-1 reel. A 7.5's okay. It's still a little bit slow because when you set the hook into these fish, a lot of times they'll come straight to the top, and you got to crank as fast as you can to catch up with them. You try to set the hook once, you get them hooked, and reel as fast as you can and get a good tight line, and set the hook again. You might have to set the hook 2 or 3 times as they're coming up. There's so much line out, and a lot of times you won't get a good penetration on that first hook set. So don't be afraid to set that hook 2 or 3 times on a deeper bait, no matter what it is. The 10-inch worms on like a bait caster or even the spinning reels, we're throwing the crappie or 5/8 ounce Shaky Pro head with that great big wide gap hook, the bigger oversized coil spring as a keeper. This is rigged again on a 7.3 Falcon Amistad, 17-pound test. But this big meat cleaver hook really gets up in these 10-inch worms. If you're throwing like a 10-inch worm, this big head and big hook work great together. It'll keep that bait vertical, with the heavier weight and the heavier head, and it's more of a stand-up style head. Will keep that worm up up, moving, free, actively. That'll make your bait look really good. Presentation. Let's see. Also, other baits like on this same big jig head would be a full-size brush hog this time of year. Can be deadly out there. They're feeding on some of these great big, giant gizzard shad and a big brush hog, rigged on the back of that same 5/8 ounce shaky pro head. It can be a deadly combination too. So if you're fishing out deep, when I say deep, I'm talking 20 to 35 foot of water. There's a lot of fish out there already. This year that big warm up we had really pushed a lot of fish out deep. They're normally getting there. I'd say more mid-July, but there's a lot of them out there already. So, if you're not getting bites, throwing up shallow, say, 5 to 15 foot, just back your boat out and try out there in 20, 25 foot of water. And, you'll find a fish. And once you find them, then you can just kind of stay there and hang out and fish for them. Other baits that'll work this time of year in the summer, if it starts getting too rough on Main Lake, you're tired of fishing Main Lake, too busy, whatever, put you on a square bill, just like this little KVD, little square bill. I like that darker back with the orange belly, kind of looks like a bluegill, and go to the very backs and run this, parallel it alongside them shallow docks that are in 5 foot of water and less. Just parallel the sides of them docks, shady side, sunny side. Try to throw up in them wells, bring it down there, throw it across the front. Lay downs out on big flats, a bunch of lay downs or brush piles or something, and just run that square bill through there, back in them shallows, and you'd be surprised of some of the fish you can catch. In summertime is some of the best time to go to the very backs and fish, just around shallow cover. A lot of times, like this year especially, that water was low for a while, and a lot of green plants, even some grass grew back on them flats or around some of them shallow docks. And now that water's up full, and you still got them green plants back there, putting out a lot of oxygen, a lot of nitrogen. And the shad go back there, the bass go back there, the bluegill are back there. You'll probably see some bluegill spawning in the very backs of some of these coves. Or back to the creeks, and the little square bill is perfect for that. Top water over the top of them if you go to the backs. And it's not too early to start flipping like a 1/2 ounce zapper jig, with like say a peck chunk, or this is that Strike King little rage bug, and start flipping shallow docks. When I say shallow, 5 foot or less. Flip the corners, flip in by the boat slips, flip underneath the catwalks. And, that can be fun. If they're on that, that's a lot of fun. You can get back in these no-wake coves, way back in the creeks where there's not a lot of boats moving around. And you can have a pretty good day just fishing a jig shallow, flip your shaky head in there, shallow boat docks. So, you can catch fish 35 foot of water, or you catch fish in 3 foot of water. So when they kind of shut that current down and they quit relating so much to that, head to the back, see if you can't catch some fish. Boy, that's about it. Let's see. That's like I said, I talked about crappie. We're still catching some crappie on the old little 3-inch Kitech swimmer. That thing just catches them all year long. We put it on an 1/8 ounce head now, and cast it out over some brush piles, and reel that thing right over the top of the brush, get out in front of some of these big docks, and cast parallel with the front of it. And let that thing sink down below those braces that are across the boat slips. Let it get down there and just reel it straight across there. And a lot of crappie will hang out by them big docks. You can catch them like that with that little setup. Or like I was saying earlier, you can troll them bluffs and catch yourself plenty of crappie right now. That's about it. Fishing's still really good. We're catching a lot of fish every day. A lot of keepers, a few good ones mixed in there with it, and a lot of shorts too. I mean, there's just a variety of fish, size-wise. I don't know. We're catching from 20 to 35 fish probably in a 4-hour trip. So, that's pretty good still. That'll start slowing down here. I'll give it another 2 weeks, and then things will get a little tougher, but we'll talk about that, in a couple weeks. But this weekend's going to be really busy. Down, of course, this is 4th of July weekend. It's going to get busy. The lake's going to be busy. The highways are going to get busy. Just be careful when you come down. Don't let the crowds scare you away. Ozarks has everything down here. The restaurants, the entertainment. Denise and I went to the Encore last night. It's that new restaurant over there by Marine Max. And we was impressed with it. Really, really nice place. Talked to the owners. Super nice, super friendly. They were there talking to people while they're eating dinner, and then we watched the Lanny Wilson concert. Great concert. Just a real neat place. If you've never been to the Encore, maybe check it out. When you're down here, it's really good food, excellent service, and maybe check out their concert venue. They've got a lot of really good acts coming in. Man, there's several coming in. Prices were pretty reasonable for the service, and the service was excellent. That's over there by Marine Max. And of course, you got a lot of restaurants over there. We live over on the west side. We always talk about the west side being, having a lot of its own restaurant, family-owned restaurants. Like we always mention the Branding Iron. That's our favorite over here. Never get a bad meal at the Branding Iron. The prices are good. They've got a happy hour for drinks. Real good drinks, great service, excellent owners. It's like I always said, if the owners are in the restaurant, the restaurant's going to be good. That's pretty much what makes it. We've got a new barbecue place. It's called Red's Barbecue, and it's up there between RA and 135, up there in Laurie, the north side of Laurie, and it's a smoked barbecue place. If you haven't been there, you got to stop in there and check out their smoked meats. They've got some bacon burnt ends, they're called. They're just little square nuggets, and they are good. They're an appetizer. They're a meal, but if you're up in that area, if you're on this west side, go in and stop and check that place out. There's a really good restaurant that has just opened this year. I hope they're doing good because they're serving up some really good food up there. We've got all the other, restaurants along here. That Fat Sal's is right there in the old mall. You've got Taboo Burgers. If you haven't stopped at Taboo Burgers, it's right there by Lake Oasis, right there on O and 5. Kind of a small little A-frame place there. They serve they're going to be up there in the top 5, probably top 3 burger places here at the lake. Excellent burgers. You got Val's restaurant there. They serve breakfast and lunch. Ain't gonna beat theirs. You got Chances Are has been there forever. Super great food, great owners. Again, owners work there. They serve breakfast, lunch, and dinner. A lot, really good value for your money. The fish market down there in Greenview, one of my favorite places to eat for any type of seafood. They sell the raw seafood for cooking on your own, or they have a little deli, and they cook up several of their fish there. That reminds me, I've got a walleye in the live well. I just remembered that from this morning. He needs to get cleaned up. But I was talking about that fish market, and I just dawned on me, I got a walleye in there, so I better clean that before it's stinking in this boat. But man, other than that, guys, I appreciate you tuning in. The Vexus is just shining. Every time I take this thing out, it just impresses me more. As this water's getting rougher out there, these air ride seats, I adjusted the air ride just the other day. I put just a little bit more air in them. The water's getting a little rougher, and you can adjust it according to how rough the water is or your weight. So boy, the ride is just incredible with these air ride seats. Everything else about this boat is pretty much impressive too for me. Everything about it, I'm trying to get used to the Mercury. The Everood really spoiled me. That motor was a quick motor. The fuel economy was excellent. If I could have found me a new Everood to put on this boat would have an Everood on it. You know, for anybody out there curious about the Everood motors, you know, they discontinued the motors sometime last year with COVID. But my dealer down here, Sport World Boat Center, they're telling me they're having less problems getting Everood parts than they are the other boat manufacturing parts. They're getting in, you know, any of the small parts, the wiring harnesses, you know, whatever parts, the shifting, power heads. They're getting power heads in again. You know, there's no issue getting Everood parts. So that Everood is a good motor. The fuel economy on the Everood was probably twice what I'm getting on this. That's the only thing. Not too overly impressed with the gas mileage of this motor yet. It's a great running motor. It runs, it's strong, but the fuel economy is just not where it needs to be. But that's a whole nother story. So, man, get down here, enjoy the lake. Just be careful down here. Really watch the highways, the roads. A lot of people are coming down. They're not going to know where they're going, where their turns are. Just have patience with them, and just give people room. Don't crowd people, you know, running down the highways, especially on some of these back roads. I'd rather not see you this weekend. I'm working the ambulance all weekend this weekend. It'll be a busy weekend. I'd rather not see you. That means everybody's being safe. But just be safe, especially out on the water. Be safe. Be friendly. Be kind to the servers in these restaurants. Tip them well. They're working hard. You hear a lot about employees down here not getting employees. We've got a lot of really good servers down here on these restaurants, and they're working their butts off. So make sure you tip them good. And other than that, guys, I appreciate you tuning in. We'll talk in about a week or so.